The open forum was today at 3:30, and we had a member of the public join us. Thank you very much. Nice to see you again. Roll call. Dostart here. Howe, I know Rose is coming. David, she may or may not be coming. She had surgery today. Dillabo, here.
Okay.
Fisher is not coming. Miridu.
Yes, I'm here.
And Tonelli.
Present.
Okay, and our two council liaisons are here. You're keeping notes, Teresa, right?
I've got.
You're doing it. Okay, got it. Okay, great. Do we have any public comments for items not on the agenda? Nope. Seeing no comments, we're going to move on to, we don't have any minutes to approve, so we're on a regular agenda. Item A. Staff to give an update.
Okay, so we are moving along with the design development process of the Civic Center building and of the library. I just got today the updated floor plan Tom and I got for the library, so we might be able to share that here at the end of our meeting. But primarily today I'd like to kind of go through the process that we've been working with the consultant team on, with staff, with the subcommittees, and where the project has progressed to this time. This is a snapshot in time. We're working through still the design development process, and we still have several months to go. But we were tasked with some specific goals by council to, one, work on budget and trying to reduce the project costs by approximately 1.8 million. Also look at what could go in a base bid of the project and what could be add alternates, so that council could help us with direction as to what to consider as add alternates, and then as the bids came in, we would work with council to pick and choose which options could be afforded to be constructed with the project and which might be done at a later date. We are also working on a green matrix, which I don't have for you today. I don't have the draft yet from the consultant team, but they are working on a green matrix to help with understanding what are the green elements that are code required, that basically per the California Green Building Code we just have to do and implement into our design, which elements that in incorporating them into the design might be a cost benefit of reducing a generator size or providing some other offsetting element, and then kind of these other items that like PVs or underground circulating water systems or what have you, that we will present to council. Here are these various options. Here's what the impacts are of design cost that you'd be absorbing up front. Even consider those as add alternates, and they are items that either you would want to construct with the facility or could be amended to the facility at a later date easily. So we're hoping, like right now it looks like we'll be on track for this, that we'll be presenting that to council at the next meeting, and I'm hoping to be able to touch base with the Green Committee before then, but I need the information from the consultant to be able to do that. So the floor plans and elevations that I'll be going through with you today, I'll discuss kind of how we got there, what meetings we've had with staff, the interactions, the comments that have come from staff regarding practicality of what they need to be able to do their job to service the community, and things we're looking at. And I'll also identify for you the things that we know we're still working on that are to be honed in on over the next couple months. So with that, a brief agenda. So we did have a quick landscape charrette, and got a few comments from the public. I have on here just a brief overview for some questions that we're going to be putting into a Survey Monkey, and then we will also be including some exhibits. You can see back here, these were presented to the public to start talking about what the plant palettes would look like, or what concept was, getting feedback from folks. We'll be putting up a Survey Monkey for a few weeks to allow the community to give us comment, pipe in. What do you think about these outdoor spaces? What do you envision being there? Are we on the right track with what you're thinking for what you'd like the landscape for this facility to be? Right now, it's the whole concept and direction has been a very natural, integrated landscaping that really seems to be consistent with not just public spaces in Atherton, but private estates and what have you as well. Protect the trees, give this natural feel, and have outdoor spaces that would be comfortable for folks to just have a meet and greet with somebody or have a bit of a community gathering, that type of thing. We're looking at those uses with the library as to which outdoor spaces will connect well with the library rooms and how those will interact, how a potential cafe area will work, that type of thing. So some of the, and again, these questions are just the initial draft ones, but it's just to kind of reinforce or get from the community, hey, we're on the right track here, or you've got some other ideas. So giving them a little bit of a background and then start asking, what are some of the iconic horticultural elements that you see in your community, and see what folks are saying.
Grace, what's the timing on the survey? When does it go out?
We are hoping for tomorrow.
Really?
The landscape architect is just going to tune a few questions up for me tonight and get those to me, and then we're looking to post by tomorrow and have it up for a couple of weeks.
Did we decide to? How did the survey come to be? Something when you mentioned, was surprised. I didn't know that I didn't remember that we were planning to do this.
So this is something I've been working with a consultant on. When the idea of the design charrette came up, we're like, well, we were afraid we wouldn't get a lot of folks coming here, so we wanted to make sure we could allow an opportunity for folks who couldn't come at this 3:30 to 4:30 time to provide input. So that one was me working with the design team saying, hey, this can be an opportunity that we can put something up where they can give us some more input. So we're not looking at changed direction, we're just looking at going with what was discussed, as I understand it from the last CCAC meeting, to just get some public input and make sure that we're hearing what the folks are saying.
So the use of the word horticultural design, does that imply you're only talking about the planting materials?
These questions are what the design team is providing me is a few more questions.
But what I mean is it's only dealing with the horticultural, we're only dealing with the plant materials as opposed to
The site plan.
the site plan.
Yeah,
the
we're not
pathways,
looking
the
for
decks and-
big changes to the
No.
site plan.
Okay.
It's just basically the look and feel of those
Or
areas.
where they are going to be planted.
Yeah.
I think that's where you're getting,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
changing the
No,
site
no,
plan,
no.
but where they're going to be planted.
Right,
Right.
okay.
And how many are going to be planted where,
And what species?
and what species.
That's what these questions are really getting at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's question number 1. This is question number 2?
Yeah.
Or is that,
So this
what's
is-
22 mean?
It just came out of the formatting of what was
Oh,
coming
okay.
out when I transferred these over.
Oh, okay.
It's
I
probably
was
a
getting
bonus.
these questions kind of last minute, so. So what do you think is the most important horticultural character for the proposed Atherton Civic Center? So is it clean and simple planting designed to support the architecture, fewer species for ease of maintenance and visual conformity? Is it rich or diverse garden with many species creating a nuanced outdoor experience for visitors? As a restoration ecology project representing native ecologies but sensitive, designed to support the architecture and public spaces, or some other idea?
Well, I think those options have kind of expanded what I think the focus of this committee has been all along in providing more of an ecosystem, environmentally sensitive planting environment where you're going to be able to save water, conserve water, use drought tolerant or native species that can be used as an educational forum for the residents, and giving those other options kind of goes against what this committee has been saying all along that we wanted to implement. That's just my first blush, this,
Okay.
And am I off base there? Or, I don't know.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I think I think what I'm hearing Mary Grace say, she wants to be thorough,
Yeah.
and the team
Right.
was worried people would show up. We had one member of the public come.
Yeah. Well,
And so
hard to-
the question is, A, do we want to do more outreach
right.
than we announced we would do? That's
Yeah.
piece A. And then piece B is, if we do it, do we want to encourage people to think beyond the scope that we've been planning for, which is largely native species?
And as an example for how residents could potentially landscape their properties when they come to get building permits, so that we do follow on with a environmentally conscious.
Oh, be a good role model.
Be a good role model.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I guess where I have a question then, are we gonna do a survey and ask them what they think about our plan, or are we doing a survey to ask them for what they would like to see?
Well, the first question is, do we want to do a survey? Because that's something, not
That's-
something we had
that's a-
directed, so I
right.
think we want to talk
Exactly.
about, do we want to do a survey
Okay.
beyond what we had announced, which was to have a open forum for people to come get feedback today. And when is the reason we're doing this, did we not announce it till very recently or something?
It
The
was
reason,
not-
the reason was just honestly, we didn't anticipate many people would come
Okay,
to this, and this gives people
Yeah.
who can't take time out of the middle of their day
Yeah.
an opportunity to be able to give input.
Do you think though you might be able to give the high level overview of what we're hoping to drive towards, which I think Elizabeth articulated, and said within those constraints, here may be some ideas if you have some inputs with those kind of boundaries around it. So they just can't think, lush kind of
Yeah.
rainforesty. It has to be something along
Yes,
those native guidelines.
I can have them craft these questions more like that, and I'm happy to circulate them to all you folks
think
to get
that's
your
a good
input before we post them out.
yeah.
Yeah, I honestly, I think that is the design team's intent, is that, because as you look on it, it says, when we design the California native plant, the idea is it be a native California plant palette. It's really how dense you plant it. We do have to be looking towards drought tolerant. The design team isn't thinking that we're going to be, but there are different ways of how you have that scape look.
Yeah, and anytime you do a survey, it's really how you craft the questions
Mhm.
and craft the options for
Mhm.
the answers, that you can
Mhm.
influence or one way or another.
Mhm.
And I'm just not sure that.
Well, and I think they go with some images as well, which helps folks as to what it is. So I'm happy to have her and circulate to everybody to take a quick gander, give us their comments, or if you prefer we not do one at all, we're happy
Well,
to do that
let's
too.
handle the first one first. So how do we feel about a survey? Do we want to support staff and Mary Grace in doing this and say, go ahead, you think it's a good idea, we support you and do it? That's question one. How do you feel?
Well, I think it's important. I mean, we only had one person come to the charrette today. We need to do better outreach. And,
Okay.
And, of course, we didn't give people too much time for today, but I think you're
True.
right. People are busy, and why shouldn't we use technology to try to reach people and give them an opportunity to give some input? So I think the concept is a good one.
Will
Yeah.
the answers be posted? I mean, not the answers, but the responses be posted?
Most definitely.
When people, I'm sorry, and when people do give answers, each choice should be clear what that direction means. So if they choose A, B, C, or D,
Mm-hmm.
and then the designer should be like, okay, that means I do this or that. Just make sure your answers are very clear about what that means for the designer actually to do. That's
And
just
who
my input.
decides if they're competing answers?
We do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we do. And then the council.
And this is just gathering input. so-
Yeah, this is just
So I
input.
think
Just
that it
input.
should be, I really want to just build off of what Gary said and how he said it, because I think that when we create this survey, we kind of create it in the context of what we have been working towards achieving, and then within that context, and it's not just a broad, open-ended, because I know that, years ago for Holbrook Palmer Park, people would, there were a lot of residents that would donate exotic plants or roses, and that were very difficult to take care of over time, because it was just open to, populate the park with plantings, and it became
A hodgepodge.
a hodgepodge and not, and hard to take care of, So I think that within the context, within this context, how do you feel about fountain grasses versus, I don't know, flax plants, or I don't know.
So would it
Whatever.
be helpful, if we start with the introduction saying, here's the criteria for the overall design, to have it be native palette, to have it be drought resistant, to have it be an educational element, and what have you, and start with these are the givens, and
Yeah.
then have the consultant help us with, okay, and what are of the, within this context, what kind of draws to
retain
you?
our heritage oaks and, our cedar trees, and, we're not gonna plant any bay trees.
My instinct would be to be very specific and to say we have oak understory areas, we have redwood understory areas. I don't think we have a third, do we? I don't think we're planting lush gardens. I think it's just those two that are in the first page. And I think they could lay out what their planting plan is. Like these are the species we're planning to put in. We have these kind of understory trees, then we have these kind of ground cover, blah blah blah. Is there anything you think we're missing? Comment, and people will say, well, there's, you're missing wild irises or something. Those are native and they're beautiful and they're oak trees that require blah blah blah. I think that would be appropriate, so people can say there's some species that really do belong in your planting plan, as opposed to saying, what would you plant to here if you could? Which is, there's no data, there's no, here's what we're planning and what's your reaction to it.
Well, yeah, and like your comment
Well,
about
I think that's fine, but that's very specific.
And then we'll have, it'll be
lend
real.
itself to a
But
to a
there's gonna be
survey monkey
people that
No,
don't
it doesn't.
have opinions
Right.
on the specific
because
varieties of the
it's a check
plants.
the box,
Yeah.
right?
But I think like what they say up there is, I think that general introduction, you can have both, and I think to get more input is better. But up there, it says that one of the plans is to use native species, and they go dormant. So you're gonna have a lot of plants in the summer that are brown and are quite different from what Atherton Gardens have. I mean, most
Or in
Atherton
the winter,
Gardens
we're
don't
gonna
have that.
be cut.
So to ask people if that's what they want, I mean, I thought Chris made a really good presentation on that earlier.
Yeah, and
And-
he's going to do some tuning up on the
Yeah, no,
question. He and
and
I
he said
chatted
that.
for a few minutes.
But I think to put that concept in people's minds, because on one hand, I can see there's a good argument for a native species garden, but on the other hand, I look around Atherton Gardens, they're not really native species gardens.
No, they're not.
So
They're high water use.
right, and so we.
But
so,
you could accent with large, container pottings and plantings, so
That
that
wouldn't be
it's not.
typical.
I don't think
Yeah.
that's what the plan is.
No.
Yeah.
So I think and landscape architects can be extremely creative to make sure that you don't get those dead zones. You might have something that flowers or flourishes at one time of year, but it
Well,
isn't
that would
at
be
the other,
helpful.
and there's another thing that's planted with it that does. So you have this kind of changing mood going through the thing. If it sounds okay, I would like for him to help us with some images to help folks understand that this is an idea of what this would look like in the summer. This is an idea of what this would look like in the winter.
Yeah, I think I'm just struggling with what we can possibly put into a survey. I mean, do you list every single plant that might go in? Otherwise, there's no way you can fill out a
I
survey.
think it's more of for example, like a garden area. Do you want us to plant a plethora of trees, or do you want it to be more of an open garden with some shade over you know, do you want it to be all the redwoods and oaks, or
But
But
my-
do you want?
that's a difficult
Yeah, I think it
answer.
really
That's-
is. Then you're going to need to show the plans
Yeah,
and
because they
what are the
got-
options.
yeah.
I don't understand
Oh,
what
they
you
love
mean.
trees,
Show me
yeah.
a picture.
Yeah.
I'd feel a lot better to let people react to it.
Yeah,
I think we should take leadership and say, this is what we're recommending,
and then have
and react to it.
an
What do you
open
feel
meeting
about
for the
it?
public and get
Okay.
feedback down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
think
what
drop the survey.
me too, that's my feeling.
So no survey?
I wouldn't survey. I would go
Get
back.
reaction from, have it kind of fleshed out more
Yeah.
and,
So
and
we
get
can do it
reaction.
a little later.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we can do that electronically with a
Mhm.
survey if we
Yeah,
feel
it could
that's
be on the
appropriate.
web.
Just
Yeah.
It
recognize
can
the
have a
longer
comments.
you wait, it makes it hard, because if you get let's say that the committee has given a direction and then we send the consultant another month and a half down the road with a concept plan, and let's say you post it up and you get a very negative reaction from community.
Well,
then you are going backwards with your,
well, I think just remember that we were trying to go the extra mile to make landscape, like have an earlier meeting for landscape.
Yeah.
But these meetings are 100% public,
Mhm.
the 4:31. And the next time it comes back, the public is invited to come, they're always invited to come see it. We can make a bigger deal that the next meeting will have
Yeah.
schematic or conceptual landscape plans. Come, if you want to give feedback, this is a good time to come.
Well, I think one of the issues Mary Grace is, sorry, bringing up is there's a difference between here's what we're gonna do, what do you think, versus here's what we recommend, how would you do it? We're asking for input versus asking for
Well,
feedback.
but we could do it let me say it differently. We don't have to go next to plan. We can go next to a written scope that says it's a native garden, it's oak understory, it's redwood understory, here's what we're planning, the guys, here's what they're planning to put in those areas. And that could go up on the web, and it can be directed out through all the different links, and people can, if you'd like to respond, send an email here, and people can respond to it before they draw it.
Yeah. So I think some of the things that the public is really gonna wanna know is, our focus is to retain as many trees on site as we can. And we're saving this oak, we're saving the deodars,
I
we're
agree,
saving
yeah.
this oak,
Yeah.
we're gonna transplant maybe the maple that's in front of the, town hall now, and, we're gonna recreate, and keep the environment, and then, the understory, the plantings and that this is the direction that we're going.
okay.
How's that? But I really think a lot of people are worried about, how many trees we're cutting down, but, how many trees we're saving, and, to the extent possible, we're saving as many trees as we can.
Mm-hmm.
I think the bigger message that we want to make sure gets communicated to give people time to react to is, it's not going to be a lush garden.
Right.
I think that's the bigger message, because people may be used to that in their homes.
Okay.
And if they want to contest that we're not going that way, then they should show up and say, hey, it's really a mistake. I mean, Atherton's all about using a lot of water to have a really beautiful, diverse, plantings, lush garden, and that's, has.
Okay. So
But I think we're not
hearing-
planning to go that way, so that's really the point is, hey, we're planning to go this way. If you have a problem, better come, respond.
Yeah, 'cause
So
some of
am
the
I
planting
hearing-
And
rhododendrons.
to me, I think the caveat is that I like Elizabeth's point about education, right? I mean, everyone would love to have that rainforest, i.e., for lack of a better term, but the reality is that we're in a drought, and we might be in a drought for a very long time. So if we can take all the resources and the skill sets the consultants have pulled together to show people how they can create wonderful yards, with this kind of expertise, it would be great. And so I can't do it on my own as a homeowner, but if the city can do it for me, and I go, wow, drought resistant looks pretty cool.
That looks so bad.
Yeah.
So am I hearing this correctly, that work with the consultant to kind of understand, to outline, here's the criteria of which the gardens are to be designed, the various drought tolerant, what have you. Here is the goal for education. Here is the desire to retain as much of the mature tree feel, and plan because this was a big point, the landscape arch made, which I thought was very wonderful, is recognize mature trees do at some point hit the end of their useful life, so we have an opportunity to plant so that the next generation will take over.
Yeah,
And we will,
like in that design meeting.
and so we'll identify, rather than do a survey monkey post, here's our criteria, if you have any input or,
Yeah.
or would like to give us a comment, please do, and here's where you can send it.
Yeah.
Does that sound
I
like a
think
good
so.
way to go?
That's a great way to
Okay,
get,
great.
it's both informing the public and giving them
Okay,
another way to respond, in addition to coming here.
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you very much.
Thanks, Mary Grace, for pushing to get more
Clarity.
clarity and to give the public a little more
Yeah.
chance, yeah,
Right.
makes sense.
So, here we go,
Right.
I'm just gonna zip through these guys. This is just kind of an overview of where we are, what we presented to council, and our, how we were dividing the budget basically, and what's considered library, town hall, what's considered the police station council.
Oh, I had
chambers.
did we ever reconsider, I wish I had a little red thing, but that whole area above where it says Project B,
Uh-huh,
all that parking we're looping into police station, council chambers. Does it not make sense to have some of that be part of the library? Or
actually, a big portion of that's the courtyard.
yeah, but yes, that shouldn't be the library, but that parking that's sort of
Like
yeah,
right
right there,
Right along that one.
or half of it be a
Along
part of the
the frontage.
library and town hall,
I think that's a good
because
point.
that's going to be the
We-
high
we can
use.
we can make an adjustment there.
Yeah, and that's not inexpensive stuff.
yeah,
Curb and concrete and
we can,
Well,
we
but
can,
but curb and concrete is part of the parcel work, that's allocated based on percentage square footage.
well, they could present that.
Mm.
There are lots of ways you could allocate it. One could be by anticipated foot traffic usage, and the library is going to be higher, I would guess, than town hall. It's something to think about.
Whatever we do, we just want to be consistent.
Yeah, no, exactly.
so we wanna make sure we had a good story to tell, so.
Yes.
I will go back and chat with the consultant, but I believe how this was laid out was looking at probably the parking demand of the library, town hall, and the parking demand of the balance of the facility, and that's probably where that division was made.
Okay.
So, at least we've got a justification for saying that we're not over allocating to
Well, it
one
sort of
side
does raise
rather
an
than the
interesting
other.
issue, yeah. So how do you, where's Paul? Paul,
Yeah.
how would you allocate costs between Project A and Project B? Do you recommend on square footage or foot traffic or?
Our strategy has been based on the footprint, not the gross square footage, but the footprint on the site.
The footprint, that's interesting.
And then we take that as a ratio.
Would that apply then to underground utilities and paving and landscape materials, everything?
That's the plan so far.
And does that represent that? It seems to me that, for instance, that little area of parking that's right off of Ashfield, a portion of that would really be allocated to the library and the old town hall, because it's really close.
Paul,
So-
I think we're confusing the outline of what is being included as like landscape elements versus site work. So Paul, can you, as far as the
These are
site work
rates.
element that's getting,
Okay.
the percentage that's separated,
Oh, this is just landscape.
Landscape elements.
right?
Okay. Oh, and then okay, got it. Thank you.
Because the paving and utilities and what, those are being divided on a percentage
Different.
basis,
Yeah,
correct?
all the
So this is
landscape
outlining
Yeah,
the
that's what I
various,
was thinking.
and the reason it's
Okay.
going across the
Yeah.
street there is the screening
No, I get it.
landscape.
It
And I
makes sense.
apologize, I should have.
No, that's fine. And you
my,
added
my
those.
brain was having.
It
a
did
little bit
add
of
that,
attachment.
whatever that native area got
Yeah.
added to library.
But that's why it's jumping across the road there, is that screening landscape because there's
Hiding
a
the
section there
courtyard.
to screen the courtyard from
Yeah.
the library for a visual and what have you, so that's how that nexus
Alright,
is going
thanks.
in there.
And this image of the police station council chambers is the
This is old, yeah.
And so the new footprint will be smaller, and we will show that existing oak tree.
yes,
there.
yes, we have the updated site plan later.
On that.
I honestly didn't go spend the money to
No,
update
I
these
understand, I
exhibits.
just wanted to make that,
Yeah,
Great.
So the library on a site development perspective is about 33% of the overall site,
meaning the parking, the driveways
right,
and things
based on
like
that
that.
footprint area that
Yeah.
Paul mentioned.
No,
Okay.
I think we're going.
Interesting, okay.
All right.
So this is what went to council as the concept of how we were going to define what would go into base bid for our next iteration on costs. Same thing here with our various program spaces. And I'm just gonna blast through these real quick. These are old, but these are what went to council for how we were looking at these various spaces. And what we were looking at is add alternates, so the library elements will be considered in its base bid, but the civic court, landscaping around, the entry court, these buffer areas would all be considered as adults. So we'd have a base landscaping. It's not that we'd be looking at dirt or anything of that sort, but it'd be more simple, basic, native hydroseed in a lot of places and what have you, and then the enhanced planting would be considered as an ad alternate.
Even the trees, like in the civic court, would be an ad alternate.
That is the current proposal.
I'd
you know,
recommend adding
Yeah.
some trees
mhm.
in the base.
And so we'll be coming back with, as they further develop the plan
Mhm.
and asking for further direction.
X number
on
or
that.
something.
Yeah.
that-
It won't be stark.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that, sorry to interrupt, is it okay to actually make a comment at this point?
Of course.
So did I hear you say that that has gone to council? So is
Yes.
council discussed it and approved that approach?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
Because what we want is to get, it was when we were discussing the reduction of the cost.
I totally understand that, just, that seems like the wrong thing to be adjusting, that's all to me,
Landscape.
landscape, yeah.
So before we go into too much of a panic on it, we have been able to reduce the square footage of the building so substantially that I think it's gonna give us some more latitude with
So-
the landscaping, so. But when we were looking at this at council back in June,
We were trying to get everything
just
possible.
trying to say,
Look
okay,
at all of it.
how can we get this to where we really understand the bare bones,
Yeah.
and then, do you look at sponsors for an outdoor room to say this enhanced landscaping, someone would wanna sponsor and have that opportunity or something of that sort. But it was really looking at, okay,
People
how are we
seem
gonna
to-
get there? And council gave us good direction on, okay, here's where the base fundraising dollar
Mhm.
amount's gonna be. And that was basically, hey, we need to look how to get 1.8 million out of the base bid. So, the footprint has helped us a great deal so
And,
far.
individuals like to sponsor planting of trees. When
Mhm.
the event garden was running short, they, put a call out for people to sponsor the planting of, a tree. And that's on a lower level, it's not the major donor level, but that can, it seems like that is an easy sell
And opportunity.
opportunity.
So this was again, just what we had presented to council of, the summary of what the CCAC input to landscape design as of the last round when we went to council. So, that was just giving a reiteration of these things, and I know there was further development. of
Is it
these.
really stamped asphalt?
You can have like, for example, you may wish, and it's something we'll work through, you
It's
may
not
wish to
stamped
have,
concrete.
well, like the crossing out here, the pedestrian crossing, that's stamped asphalt. Where it looks like bricks in the asphalt,
Oh,
that's a stamped
That's
asphalt.
SDC, yeah.
There is a stamped concrete as well.
It's not a bad base for a
Not
base
bad.
bed. Yeah, it's, for a base bed, it's fine. It'll look nicer to upgrade it, but it's not a horrible base bed.
okay.
It's a lot cheaper than concrete.
So here is our site plan, our updated site plan, and what we can see on here is, if you look at the oak tree, you can see it's on there, the big circle, and it's being preserved at this time. And if you look at that little building outline where the oak tree is.
In here, that was the former footprint of the building.
It's
So
amazing.
that
I
has
think
come
it's so
back
great.
to here. This is the new council chambers. And the architect looked at this sight line, because I know there was a lot of discussion about the cans and these buildings facing one another. And so this was actually, a lot of care was taken to look at how the sight line would be from the stairs of the new council chamber and of this building, to see how it would look, and they aligned it through the existing deodars, so that you weren't looking, you didn't have a tree trunk right smack in the middle of your sight line, that it's more framed. So that's how this cant was laid out.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
I'm really, really happy with that.
And their vision, and I'll share it, it was actually kind of cool. Adam he was really quite passionate about it, but with saving this tree, you have this great opportunity for this just
Well, anchor the whole
It's
thing.
massive.
Yeah.
That's
kind of
beautiful.
anchor, and just makes it look like these buildings have been slipped into this established
Mhm. It's really great.
landscape, as
It's really,
opposed to
really
just
great.
cutting things down and having big holes.
Yeah, we didn't want to cut those down.
So this is pretty,
This is
I
really,
think, pretty
this is
exciting.
really,
Yeah,
it's
no, it's
really
very exciting.
amazing. I'm just so thrilled about that.
So what did we do? We worked a lot with staff. We had meetings with staff to kind of interview, okay, what do you need to do your job? You know, because sitting with staff in the permit center and saying, okay, here, our permit technician needs to be able to respond to the counter. She also needs a space to work on permits. She also has to have connection with the plans examiner and the building official, and how do those people provide the backup when someone is busy at a counter, and just the real functionality of how things would work. How do the storage spaces work? When you're working with large plans, it's not practical to have those big plans on the first story if you need to get them to the second story. So they need to be in an accessible space so that it works. And it also needs to be appealing. This is a beautiful building that is going to be built. You don't want to look from the lobby and see big rolls of ugly plans sitting behind desks. So how do all those screenings look and what have you? We went and counted all of the plan files and talked with staff about which file cabinets are necessary. What do you think you need for in perpetuity for flexibility? And you know, staff was very practical. This is a built-out city. We're not needing to build in a lot of extra storage. Really, what we have is practical. This is how we archive things. So you need a certain amount of space to roll things in and have them while they're active, and then here they go to archive. So this is how this works. So the practicality of those things was very good. We talked about how to handle copier spaces so that they were accessible, how you would lay out the different spaces so that when people need to coordinate, they're not walking back and forth and it's highly disruptive. How you're going to have those practicalities and things. So those are a lot of the things we worked with. We did the same thing over in the admin section, and then we worked with police extensively about how their operations work. We had, what's Erica's title? She's the
Community service officer.
She came in and
CSO.
was very enlightening to have her explain how they handle evidence, how it's processed, what the safety elements are, how those things all need to work, so that we could make sure that the rooms, the spaces are all aligned efficiently and appropriately to be able to make the site functional.
Same with the police consultant. Go ahead.
I was just gonna make a quick comment, Mary Grace, George, about like one of the things that we're trying to do in some of our buildings is that even like for our construction trailers, we're trying to have tables that are less accommodating for plans. And the only reason being is that, you know, plans are starting to move into a digital world pretty quickly. And I think like a plan versus something like that, Like our construction teams use it all the time. They find it much more efficient. They can push data around to the entire team very quickly. So over time, it's just something with regards to process that you might want to encourage, the local cities and the local contractors to maybe use this, and they might work through the process more quickly and ultimately save space.
We're moving there from a software perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, 100% yet in terms of actual use in the building and planning department, but it's moving in that direction.
Yes, and that was actually discussed, and I can go through how we kind of accommodated that in this layout.
So,
Forcing
so,
it.
kind of just so Gary, if you're looking at the plan, have you looked at the plan that they've got? So with this being kind of the main counter, this width here, I don't know how linear that arch is, and then with some tables in the open lobby, for smaller discussions and stuff. So how many?
So what we're looking at, this is a work in progress. There's still some comments that have to be implemented. For example, you'll notice this door is a little just too close to the back of the counter. The intention is that this counter, it's about 30 feet long.
Okay.
It'll be divided into 7.5 feet, a 15-foot section, and a 7.5-foot section. The 7.5-foot sections on either side will be lower, ADA accessible, and the middle section will be a higher counter. There'll be divisions, so there'll be the opportunity to have screens to service 4 different stations like we're talking about. This will probably move out so that we can have more of a 6-foot gap here, so that when you have people servicing the counter, you still have a way for people to get back and forth and across. It's probably going to change how this area accesses a little bit, so they're working on that. The relationship, just to kind of give you kind of how things kind of work. So permit tech and the office specialist will probably flip. The building official needs to have an ear on what's happening at the counter. If something's becoming a little bit heated or something, he needs to be able to go out there without being in the back area where he can't hear what's going on. So having his in earshot of here is important. The permit tech being able to have a connection with their plans examiner is important, and that plans examiner being able to understand that, hey, are things getting overwhelming for the permit tech up the counter? I need to be popping out to assist. We have a small town that the staff needs to be multifunctional, so they need to be listening to what's going on. That connection needs to not be super disruptive to your whole planning department. Of course, you don't want your planning department to be completely visual to the counter, because they get called up constantly and can't get work done. But their ability and need to collaborate is important. So having them in the cubicle area, there is a layout table here. These are intended to be file cabinets that also are a layout area, but it's a multifunctional area. We have a second plans examiner. Plans examiners need plans right now. They're not all digitally. so they do have a layout area. And we've placed these layout areas so they're kind of built into the spaces. So there's area to put things, but they aren't just designed for that. They'll have storage underneath. They'll be multi-use. We've laid out this area where our inspectors can pop in and out. They're usually in the early morning and then later in the day, but they don't need to be just taking up a space in the whole functionality area. So we have them back to the coffee area, so we have a little coffee area, and that works out just fine. We have our whole copier workspace, so it's easy access for our office specialists and what have you when they need to scan and what have you. Permit tech will always need to have a printable situation there because they're dealing with it all the time. We're looking at probably having printer pullouts under the counter and what have you. We're working out those details too, so we can work with somebody, have a permit, be able to handle it without walking all through the office and those types of things. We've created flex spaces in, so the goal would be rather than have extra offices up here for public works, which this is expensive square footage to build. It's actually more practical to have them located with the maintenance and operation. A lot less cost per square foot, and they really need to have that oversight of the crews and what have you. but our public works maintenance superintendent is up here frequently, so we have a flex space that he can share with other flex staff that comes in and out. This area then can be closed off, and this can be an appealing type of divider, so that in the after hours, the public can use this space. If you wanna have an art show, or you wanna have some kind of gathering, the upstairs and downstairs spaces can both be utilized. And it's not going to disrupt or be intrusive into areas of the town that we shouldn't have the public just wandering in the after hours. So that is a little overview of our planning and building area. Like I say, all the cabinets have all been identified with what's in the pod, what we have as working plans and drawings that we need to go through, how they handle the permits and that rotation, how record information can be handled, and what have you. So it's all been accommodated to be within this space, which is important.
Yep.
So the reception counter, I know
Mhm.
you're saying you're gonna try to move it forward, which I think is a good idea to give the back counter
Right,
people
just a
more
couple
room.
feet, we're not talking.
Okay, and you've got the vestibule on the right-hand side.
Mhm.
There's, how do people, I guess, right now, how people get from in their workspace out to the lobby is they go through the one little opening of the vestibule, go and then come back out.
Yeah,
And-
one of the comments has been that this won't be a door, this will just be
It's
more
just an
of a-
opening,
Yeah.
right? But if we move the counter up, you were saying that maybe that slide, dividing
figure it
door
out.
would have to, but,
Right.
yeah.
This will probably move over to here, and then this is something the architect has yet to figure out.
But
It's-
that's still the thought that,
Yep, that there'll still be an opening
It just
into
doesn't seem
here,
like there's
it's just
gonna be
how
room
does
for
it, how's it
increasing
configured,
this.
what does it look like exactly, that, they're working on that right now.
without encroaching on the open space too.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Okay, so now the buildings are locked, you know, I know the main building is locked from 12 to 1, I think. And I presume that the building department is locked from
11 to
11 to, so are people in this, what is the philosophy here? Are people going to be allowed to stay in those couches? Or are you gonna chase everybody out and lock the downstairs door, or what's
So
gonna go
the
on?
idea would be that this, as far as the permit counter,
Mhm.
it would close, this would be this operable wall,
Okay, I get that.
and they close out. As far as the whole city hall closing,
Mhm.
I think we have to talk about what those logistics are, but, and how the counter downstairs.
And that
I think
exit's
you're
okay?
asking about the
Right,
downstairs
I mean, can
counter.
somebody stay there during 11 to 1 theoretically now, since there's space there?
That
And
is,
downstairs as well, there's
Right.
a couch, and, you know, do you no longer lock up, or do you chase people out? Or, and
the
there's-
intent is not to chase people.
Right, okay, so you're gonna let people stay up here and just lock the
It'll be
door.
secured, they'll,
Mhm.
you know.
Has that been through a code, fire consultant?
They've been consulting their fire consultant, but we'll be doing an over.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how you get, if you're eating your lunch inside that
Here?
secured area,
You
yeah.
have- Oh, the exiting requirements?
Yeah, but
Yes.
you don't have half the distance. If that's secured, that wall's down, they're gonna need panic hardware to get out of it.
They're already working through all this.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm not gonna,
I think they have enough exits already going out.
Well, but they're gonna need to be able to get to the second exit.
Yeah.
When
Well,
that thing's,
and-
when those are pulled across.
so this is where
yeah.
I let the architect
Yeah.
a little bit, because they may decide, they may come back with, okay, in order to make that secure, you have a door, and then you
Yeah.
have a purple.
Yeah, you
So
might,
that you
when-
still have the door that you can get out.
that thing may be in this side of the door, yeah.
I think you're right, because otherwise, how do you get access to bathrooms?
Well, the bathrooms will be another reason, yeah.
And that's so far away
You're
from
not
the
allowed to go to the
exit.
bathroom alone.
There's
Oh,
bathrooms
yeah.
downstairs.
Yeah, I know.
No, no.
it's upstairs.
No, but they're on the other side of the,
Yeah.
But they're
They're closed.
downstairs.
same thing, you still gotta get across the hallway, you gotta get across the lobby.
The lo-
They're gonna
Lobby
need a
will be
way across
open.
that lobby to that other
Downstairs,
stair,
the
for sure.
downstairs
The
lobby will
lobby
be
doesn't have
open.
a gate closure.
Yeah, but just trust me, Mary Grace is on it. There, you have to be able to get to that second stair from this space. there's no way they'll let you occupy a building without access to a
The
second stair.
secondary exit.
Not gonna let you do it, yeah.
Well, that's
They'll
the
figure it out.
detail. That's
You're
the
on it.
detail.
I got it. Just wanna make sure they were thinking about it. Yep,
Yep.
okay.
So that's our planning, building and engineering.
So it's just one comment. So with things like the storage, I don't know, what do you call it here? The area on outside of planning where you proposing to have a self-service counter, could we move that into the center of the space just so that when you're
It
approaching
might
the
be
building?
mobile. It might be a piece of furniture.
Oh, okay.
So that just has yet to be worked out, but it may be the preference of the town that is a piece of furniture so that it can be rolled away and somewhere if you
Yeah.
want to open that area for a.
I wasn't even thinking that. I was just thinking as you're approaching the building from either side,
Uh-huh.
it would be nice to get it out of your sight line. You're looking up,
Mhm.
there's the balcony. You don't really want to see the back of a
That's very
display
true.
counter or something.
I'll briefly.
Mayor Grace, can we do a quick time check? So what my goal is to let you continue to run the meeting. I just want to we've got an hour and 5 minutes to wrap up. We've got a number of things to go through, and at some point you're going to want feedback. So far, people are asking clarifying questions, but at some point you're going to want feedback from us on the common areas and the exterior.
Yeah,
I just
and-
wanna
and as
think
far
through
as-
time.
I'll be honest with you, as far as coming to you with the details of the lobby spaces, we're not there yet. That's probably gonna be
Yeah,
one
yeah,
of the next meetings.
but how do you, I hear you. How do you want to handle, just process-wise, in the next 65 minutes?
I'm happy to take if you've got some,
Yeah, as we go, just
Yeah.
give you comments?
I think that would be great.
Okay. And the thing we're not supposed to comment on is staff space. It's not, I mean, you always can, but it's not our bailiwick, right? You don't, okay. So we're really supposed to comment on common space that the public will touch. So, the one thing that I had mentioned earlier to Mary Grace that she's gonna work on is, I think the bathrooms, both on this level, the ladies' room on this level isn't so bad, but the men's room on this level and the men's room and ladies' room downstairs that are public are way too, they need more space. They
Right.
need, okay. Right now, they're kind of inferior. You walk in and there's somebody going to the bathroom right when the door, you open the door and they're standing there going, number one. Not so great. But did anybody else have comments on the public spaces here?
I'd like a clarification on the mail bin and the postal self-service.
Okay, that's on the next floor.
We'll go to the
So
first
get
Oh,
there.
we're down, okay, I was looking at the restrooms down in the lobby
Yes.
too.
We will, we'll get there
Okay,
next.
okay, so we're talking.
So
about
we're on the
floor?
second floor?
Yeah.
We talked about,
Let's
have
do
we
it.
got to the police yet?
No, we'll get there. So, this is the administrative on the first floor, and.
Oh, we're gonna, okay.
She's going through the different
Where are we?
departments. You see up at the top.
Are we on
The last one
first
was
floor now?
Yes.
building
Okay,
plan
so
and
sorry.
whatever it was.
So,
She's doing it by grouping.
I'm going by grouping, so, just kind of give you an overview of how we got to this generation of where we did and the thought processes. So in laying out this area, you'll notice, on the second floor, there's no staff lounge. We have a little counter for coffee pot and what have you, but all staff for both the, planning, building, engineering, and for the administrative staff will all use this downstairs staff lounge. So there's just one.
And if staff wants to go outside and have lunch,
There's
our
gonna be an
beautiful
area
courtyard.
out here.
okay, so we're not only allowing that, we're gonna encourage that.
That is my understanding.
Okay,
The
good.
current plan is to.
Yep.
And staff is very excited.
And the
about
landscape
that.
architect's gonna plan around that so that it doesn't look random and
Right,
it looks
that
intentional.
It's, yes.
Okay,
There's gonna be a lovely cafe right over here.
right
on the
over here,
deck. You can
yes,
come over.
yeah.
So in this
Just wanna make sure
downstairs
you guys
space,
heard that, though.
the idea,
Okay,
this
and
is
maybe
where
I'll just
the public would come into this main lobby.
Free.
We have somewhat of a statement stair element that the details we'll be coming back with. Don't get caught on the shape and what have you because they just haven't gotten that far yet. But they'll be coming back with more on this lobby. I know some of the things they're thinking about is as you come into this area, this is a big 2-story clear kind of area. They're envisioning this is to be a beautiful donor wall that is going up to the right.
On the immediate right-hand side there.
The stairway will have some positive element to it. They haven't worked the details of that out yet. It may be that that the stairway and the elevator end up flipping, as they work through what that stairway element should be. So those are things that when we come back to you with the details of those public spaces, we'll come up with more ideas and get your input on those concepts. The mail bin area, what I explained that earlier, what that is all about is that currently we're non-compliant. The postmaster has requirements for how a mail bin needs to be secured. So they have spoken with the postmaster, gotten those requirements, and it basically needs to be in some kind of a locked closet where people can drop their packages in, but not in the big open configuration of a rolling bucket like we have now. So I heard earlier about potentially getting that incorporated into somewhere up in this area maybe,
Be nice.
and the moving that postal service element over, and so I'll be taking all those comments back. As far as the admin space, one of the things
Give the
that
bathrooms
staff
some
made
space,
comment
too.
is this really doesn't need to be a room. This can be more of an alcove area that can be storage, can have multiple options for use as opposed to being a room, and save some money on
I have
the
a
room
question
element.
about council storage,
So-
69 square foot, what's that?
So the idea there is that this would give council a place to have code books, have reference materials, what have
That's
you.
me, actually. I said, if there's any space we could put a space like that, it would be good to have a small little table with a couple of chairs around it, and then 5, small cabinets where you could store your municipal code, any mail that goes to a particular council member, divided up for each 5, a phone, and if you wanted to come in and have a short meeting with somebody, you'd have a space to do that in, if the conference room's occupied or other spaces in the Civic Center are occupied. So if there was a cubby area to place that, because there's empty space here and there, then we could put it in there.
There's no way to get the staff lounge over where the admin conference room is there. I know you're keeping the door there so that you can host a meeting there without bringing people into admin, but it would be interesting to see if they can shuffle the deck a little bit.
We've looked
I
at
like
that.
it there
We
for the
did look at
upstairs
that.
access.
Oh, you like that?
I like it.
Oh,
Yeah.
so,
This-
but
it's
you wouldn't like it if it was right here is
No.
what I'm wondering,
Mhm.
because you still have the stairs and,
No.
no?
Mm-mm.
This actually worked really well.
I
to
think it's
conduct.
really good where
It is pretty important that, you
Yeah.
have an ability to bring the public in
Yeah.
out without traipsing them back into the.
No, the question is, could they flip it? But I mean, I know you've got it, you've really thought it through
We've tried really
with
hard.
the work area on the other side, it's just,
I'll tell you the other thing to look at, we're getting to the point now when you look especially with first story, second story, we are pretty crammed tight
No,
with
it's
respect to efficiencies of spaces. And I will say that with the one caveat of electrical, mechanical, they are looking at right now. I will tell you, I've been harping on them night and day about that one, and we finally have gotten the floor plans to the point where they can engage the electrical, mechanical to really properly size the electrical, mechanical. So I'm feeling there's still some room there, but when you start looking at adjacencies of spaces, that upstairs where we've got 17 people working, and downstairs we have less people working, you're gonna have a little bit more elbow room in the downstairs.
do we have janitorial rooms?
You're not going
Mhm. Right here.
to cram the
They're there.
one floor to be smaller than
Yeah,
the
okay,
other.
okay.
And we can't, like I mentioned earlier, you can't have the storage for planning be downstairs and people
Yeah,
going
no,
all the way across the building to the elevator to raise plans. It's just not practical.
It's
So
a puzzle.
we are getting to the point where some of these spaces, there'll be a little bit of square footage here and there, but it's just efficiency of how the layout actually works. And you'll see that when we go through PD as well.
So my comment, my 2 cents about the council, room is if we can do without it, I'd be happy. And if those municipal codes and other things could be in some kind of a bookshelf in the admin conference room, I think that would work just as fine. That
We
we
can-
don't need a separate
Yeah,
room.
the one, what I was trying to get to with my, with my comment is it would end up most likely then just being a closet. So it's not that you would necessarily,
You're not gonna save space.
you're not gonna save space by it.
Yeah. It became the only reason it's in my head, is in all the other communities I've worked in, there's been a space like that.
Right.
And when it was a space, it became a very functional space for the council to have mayor's office hours and other things that go on
Yeah.
that they like to do and engage the community. And in a small community, the ones I've been in,
Yeah.
the conference rooms are always in use. So
Yeah.
they've never had a space to do that.
Yeah, I just think that I just don't think it would go over well with the residents. I mean, we are.
Nobody's gonna focus on that little
Nobody's
tiny
gonna focus
square.
Oh,
I totally
think if-
disagree.
I think if Dee Dee were here, she'd be
I
all
don't really
over us.
care.
She didn't have her
No, she didn't comment on it. Yeah, she
I
gave
don't
very
think she
specific
understood
comments.
what it was really meant for, because you don't know, what is council storage, what does it mean?
For
There'll be a
restorative-
lot of
Anyway,
in the
you guys can,
library from
the answer is there's
conference,
probably gonna be a
And
room there that's about that size, and the
Yeah.
council can
Yeah.
decide what goes in.
We could call it something else.
Yes.
All right, let's keep
Maybe we
moving.
call it
I think
something.
Now, let's
we
keep
should
moving.
call it something else.
Bonus room.
So we have clerk and the city clerk and finance, and they've got good relation to where their support staff will be, and the support staff also
this is
is responsive to the reception
they
when
worked
the
hard.
receptionist is not in that area as well, so it gives a good connect there. And city manager, we've got him in the corner. We can
Oh, yeah.
Yes, go ahead, Steve.
No, Elizabeth just made yeah, no, I think George, I'm glad it got bigger. It was way too small before. Can you flash back to the second floor administrative, other people?
The planning.
Before we started this whole process, one thing we had asked for was more open space, and the second floor has done a
Really,
really good job. It's pretty open, to be more cohesive. The first floor is, a lot of it needs to be closed wall, but it is pretty much entirely hard wall except that one space.
This is actually very open, and then this will all be open too.
Well, you just said that,
Yes,
okay.
yes. So you actually have a really, this whole area is open,
Okay,
from here all the way. This is a big open
yeah.
And downstairs is kind of the nature of the people.
Yeah.
City attorney needs a closed office.
So do you need the hard walls around the staff lounge?
You do
Probably
for noise.
factor.
It's a noise factor.
Yeah.
There's
With
also
all those
the-
hard walls around it, I don't know.
The smells, people
What about
microwave
Yeah,
their
but
lunch.
what's, that's an old concept though, isn't it, Gary? I mean, today in all the office buildings, nobody's doing that.
right.
Somebody puts
No hard
fish
walls
in the
and-
microwave.
Staff?
They're just
Right.
playing beer pong.
Yeah, they're playing beer
Is
pong.
that true?
They use a lot more
Yeah.
glass
Yeah.
internally too, just to make sure you
Put
get
in,
secure
partitions.
areas.
Yeah.
What's gonna happen in this office space here is right now we have actually four, loungy spaces. And we have, like you said, there's 17 people upstairs.
Yeah,
And
it's gonna be noisy.
and it's the only
It's
one.
just the
Okay.
slamming of the microwave,
Yeah, okay.
the opening and closing of the.
It might wanna have you might
But
wanna upgrade to a glass wall or
the
something.
thing
You might
is
wanna make
that
it more of a,
It's adjacency to any other
Yeah.
offices is nil. I mean,
just,
you're
it
adjacent
can
to
be aluminum
stairwell,
studs and
you're
everything.
adjacent to the
Like a-
janitor's closet.
It could be
You're
floor
looking
to
at
ceiling, but
this.
E-mount.
This is
Yeah.
all you're really looking
Yeah.
at.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be Herculated, but you might wanna be a little more open feeling,
Yeah, I'd love it.
like a storefront.
Yeah.
Yeah, it used to be a lot more expensive to have glass. Glass is becoming a lot more affordable in these glass
Yeah.
frames, and it just opens the whole space up.
That's
Yeah.
a good idea.
That's a great idea. Police department first floor. So we've gone through some pretty substantial changes in the police department. Police department, there used to be two of these big rooms. One was the tactical and training room, and then this was the briefing, reports, library, room. What we worked with the consultant team and working with police is that we could merge the tactical training with the gym area and it become a multifunctional space, and then we could reduce a large square footage. I mean, we reduced like 600 or 700 square feet that was able to move there. There were also a lot of efficiencies through here. There was, I believe, an extra office space. There was an extra hallway. Just looking at how the efficiencies of spaces would work, we looked at this area was much larger before, and we
Yeah.
had offices. Now we have cubicles into these areas. We've talked with PD, and I'm sure Lieutenant Wade will be able to answer more
completely as to certain spaces that have to be offices or have to be secured off. But we have gone through, each of these spaces, asking those questions about, okay, which need to be a secured off space? How does that access need to be the evidence? What is the relation there? Can, these SRO and COs, do they really, what spaces do they need? Can they work with a cubicle area and those types of things? So these have all been vetted to that point. The relation of how the ingress and egress of the public into the police lobby and into the main lobby of the building, how it all work during the daytime versus after hours, how the relationship of dispatch through this reception and the bulletproof glass and how they can receive people, monitor people, all of this type of thing. How you
Can you talk about how I've never really understood the reception. So somebody comes in at night through that side door, and they walk up to that counter. Is there somebody there? Do you press a button? Like,
you have this will be a glass.
That's a glass wall.
Into dispatch.
And I think one of the comments was, why is that reception zone so big? What's there? Is there a counter there? There's a double line.
This is a counter area, so currently there is a counter where people are received. Can you give a little bit more?
And is there a reason that needs, it's like a full private office there, but nobody's stationed there, right?
You know, I can't see through you there.
It's very okay.
That's reception at dispatch.
Right. Well, the way we have it now is, well, you've been over to the police department, and the reception area, it's pretty tight. And not that we get a ton of people in there at once, but if we get more than one or two parties, then it gets pretty backed up. Space-wise, I don't know totally how that compares to what we have now. It definitely looks larger, but it just gives us some flexibility, gives us some space to do what we need to do without ever feeling crowded.
I think, though, your question is.
Just that room that says
Just that
reception.
room, 156 square feet.
That
Maybe that-
reception, there's nobody, it's not being manned permanently,
Right.
I don't think.
No,
Correct.
but
So maybe that counter
I
can
can
move
get you
back
some
into
more
it a little bit.
clarification
Yeah.
from the consultant. My guess is part of it is getting, like I mentioned earlier, kind of the fallout of how things end up laying out of what you need as far as adjacencies and things of that sort.
But maybe that public counter section doesn't have to be all the way out to the front. It can be pushed back about halfway into that space, right?
Or it just seems like you might find a way to use the space. They might just say, no, there's nothing because of the way everything else lines up. There's no way to make it
Well,
usable.
what they
You know
do
what?
with that space now is they end up putting things, there's a lot of stuff going on in that area, in fact, some of our, they leave things for us to pick up there after hours. So, and they have brochures, they have other stuff. I don't even know what stuff is,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of
That's
stuff.
not in the reception.
Yeah,
It's
that
not,
thing.
so maybe that was the
Public
intent,
not
that
going
they
into the lobby.
would put some of
I
those
mean, into the
things
reception.
there, but I think it's not configured right, I agree with.
The public can't get into that area
Yeah,
called
no.
reception. No, what I was just saying, you're gonna have about an
It's
8
all
by
on the
10
counter.
space.
Pull
on the
this
counter.
back so that area.
It just feels like a
is
waste.
more
It's
efficient.
an inefficient use of
Yeah.
what they plan to do.
I don't know what you do with it.
Well, and that's where we're starting to
Council,
get
we'll
down
make a
to
council.
where it's-
There you go, council.
There you go.
Yeah, come over to the
Right there.
PD.
All right, no, thanks.
We'll have to
You'll figure it out,
wind you
Mary
down.
Grace. If there's a better solution, I know you'll get there. It might not be easy.
So I will tell you, this space over here, they're still working on this. This was, we ended up with a little extra space because of the can't.
Oh,
And this
okay.
is what I was mentioning before. They're gonna straighten this out
careful.
and then put this square footage into the council chambers. So rather than have this kind of dead funky hallway and this kind of funky storage, this wall will come up to this point and then it'll angle and go over that way. So that will gain that square footage into the council chambers.
So there'll still be the bathrooms there with the access? Enough access?
It'll just be a 5-foot hallway. It doesn't need to have this widened hallway element. This kind of then becomes more usable space rather than this extra storage, which wasn't in the original program.
Mhm.
That can be incorporated into the council
Yeah,
area.
yeah. I was thinking that could have been maybe the council storage. But, since the council storage was really being used for something else.
So, okay.
So Mary Grace is saying that this is going to almost go away, this large space?
No, we had one that went away. There were two of them.
Okay, so what did you say was going to be combined with the gym?
It's already been done.
The training? Oh,
The
okay.
tactical training, it's the other 700 square foot room from the previous floor plan.
Mhm.
There used to be another 700 square foot room here.
Mhm.
That's gone away.
Okay, and that got incorporated in the gym,
Right.
and this, so there were two
So
of
this,
these?
yeah, and they had some different purposes.
Traffic.
Pardon?
Okay.
This room has multi-functions and actually it's an important room. The PD really needs a space to be able to run briefings. They right now are fighting with other interests and trying to schedule briefings with other uses of the council chambers and things like that. That's really not a good way for PD to function. They need a place that they can gather, have briefings. They need where they have to call folks together for an emergency, get them together, those types of things. And their regular meetings. This is also their report area. It's also their library. So they do need the one room where they really can pull folks together. And I think I had mentioned, Rose, to the group earlier, what I'm working on right now is preparing a fact sheet for you all that helps with being able to explain to the public why are each of these spaces important, what are they used for, how do we get to that point, so that it helps community understand how we're doing that.
That's a good idea.
It is, I think that's an
Yeah.
excellent.
So PD second floor. So this is our infamous fitness and tactical training, and we're still working on the layout of equipment. Lieutenant Wade has taken me over to take a look, and there's a lot of equipment, but we're gonna look at an option of how that equipment can be more efficient, maybe pieces of equipment that can be multifunctional for
Big space.
different
So
exercises and that type of thing.
I have two suggestions. So the tactical training piece, is that gonna involve tables like these or?
Mats.
Mats.
So it's
Mats.
Where they throw
get
people
in there
down.
and they have
Right.
suits and things.
I'd love to
Perfect.
see that.
Perfect, okay,
Do you ever
can we
invite the
title-
public to watch?
can we,
Not usually, no.
Not usually.
I don't think for the architectural plan that, we need to have the image of the workout machines all filled in that room. We could have if we need images in there,
The
we can
mats.
put the images of the mats.
Thank you, so that's part
And
of my
I would
fact
change
sheet.
the title of the room to be tactical training before fitness. If there's anything in this whole thing that's gonna be totally focused on, it's not gonna be what was called council storage, we could just call that something else. But it's gonna be this room, and it already has been.
How about if it said tactical and physical training?
We can do that,
Instead of fitness.
That's great.
Instead of fitness.
Perfect.
okay? That's a great comment.
Well, we'd love to have our
Excellent.
There you
officers
go.
fit.
That's very good.
You have to be fit
It's
to
true.
serve,
That's all, yeah.
right?
Well, yeah.
I mean, isn't that a requirement?
And really, the last time when
But
we
it's
showed
also
6
supported by policy because we have
exercise machines.
our exercise
Yeah.
wellness
Just show the
program.
mats.
Yeah, fitness.
So-
That's a
yeah.
good point.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's a real good point.
So this floor has gotten a lot more efficient,
Mhm.
with how it lays out and what have you, so, it is
and no more future terrace.
more future time.
There's always that piece that was gonna turn into a terrace someday.
I think, so again, so to that comment about the fact sheet, that's where I'm gonna have some images and things of what tactical training is. Lieutenant Wade's provided me the size of the mats and what have you, so yes, we will superimpose those in and how much clear space has to be around there to be able to accommodate tactical training and that type of thing.
This might be a crazy question, but is this something that other staff members can use outside the police force?
Well, as it stands right now, in terms of the workout facility, absolutely. Like if anyone from building wants to come over and use it, right next door, finance, if they wanna go over and use it, absolutely they can.
Is that okay when we have the secured area now in this?
You know, I wouldn't see why it wouldn't be.
Okay.
And certainly all the dispatch
Yeah,
use it.
yes.
That little alcove at the chief's office on the exterior.
Mhm.
It's like 3 feet or
Right.
something by, is that for is that there
Yes.
to be an architectural detail?
Yes.
Is it, I wonder if it's worth it.
I wasn't here during those discussions, but that was part of the
Yeah,
earlier.
it's got the arched windows.
It's to make
It's like setback
it's-
arched windows.
No, the windows aren't set back, it's
So-
internally, there's like a,
Oh, it's just
3-foot
the window
gap.
setback.
that looks like a
Not an
faux
balcony or
terrace,
anything.
but
Ah,
it's not gonna
that's
be a
what I thought.
terrace.
Right.
So it's gonna make that office very dark.
Well,
This
that's
is
a
what it
good,
used to look
that's a
like
good
upstairs.
point. I
It used
hadn't
to be
even,
a big
I hadn't even focused on that.
Another one?
It might be worth talking to
Sergeants
them
in the
about,
Okay.
cause if those
Then
windows are
must have
just
combined this room next to
What I-
8 inches or 12 inches deep, it might be enough.
Don't you think?
They look pretty deep now. It feels like a waste today,
Sure does.
cause you're not gonna use it, there's no door to it, there's not anything. It just makes,
Right.
Just a pigeon
So
roost.
that's
just a pigeon
Well,
roost.
that's a good point.
No pigeon roosts.
Yeah,
If you can bring more natural light into there as well, that'd be great, right?
Uh-huh.
yeah, you might
Or
really
council
get
chambers.
Okay.
Here we are with our council chambers.
Go back to the.
It was sized per council's direction for the 40 spaces that, as I mentioned a little earlier, and this actually will shift back and give it a little bit more breathing room. And we are still looking for some direction on a few items that you're.
Yes, so perhaps these two council liaisons could weigh in on whether you want a permanent dais, is that what you're talking about, or a removable dais? Would-
Oh, did you hear the question, Elizabeth?
I did. Well, keeping in,
Not raised,
yeah,
just.
but keeping in the spirit of what our town center task force and flexibility of, you know, space and usability, so that it's not just hard and fast. My first impression is to have a movable dais so we could use this for whatever. And you go into these other city council chambers and they've got, you know, the massive raised dais, and, you know, we were at Daly City the other day, and, you know, they're 5 feet above everybody, I mean, huge. So,
Well, raised isn't something unless the council desires, that we don't necessarily need, but permanent versus temporary, the drawback is, if it's temporary, staff time has to come over before every meeting, planning, commission, whatever other meetings we have in the room, set up not only the tables and the chairs, but also the audio.
Yeah.
And then that changes how your technology ends up in the room as well. With a
And
permanent
also-
dais, you can.
Yeah, you
Yes.
also need a place to put it.
It's also pretty common now for council members to have their own little screen, which is not
Correct.
expensive. It sounds like it's not, but you need a permanent dais to
You
do
do.
that, or you have a very sophisticated.
Yeah,
hookup
and
somewhere.
You have to look at where are you going to put it.
Once you take it down.
well, I
and
mean,
store
I
it.
don't
Well, you
think
could
you
just
have
roll
to
it
take it
against
down.
it.
Take it down all the time?
Exactly,
I
that's
mean,
what I was just
you know,
gonna say.
as a starter, maybe have it temporary, and then as time goes on, you know, with funding in a year or something afterwards, you know, think about, you know.
Well, it changes your technology dynamic, whether you have screens or whether you have a projector, built-in projector, whether you run the cables and the wires
Okay.
under the tables, or whether you pull them in from the sides, and so you really have to give it some thought if it's gonna be temporary versus.
Gosh,
Your temporary may
Yeah,
not
we should
be
think
a
about
more
that.
cost-effective solution
Redwood
at
City
the
is at
start.
full.
It might be more
Redwood,
expensive
not raised.
to make it temporary.
But
Redwood
it's
City
permanent
has a
though.
permanent,
But it's
and
permanent.
so
And it's
does
flush.
Hillsborough, and I think it's flush too. But the big thing is where all the chairs are, they're movable.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the really big deal. I mean, what the town council does is less significant. I think if it were temporary, you just roll it back against a wall. It just opened up some more space. But the big deal is the chairs, and we've been in Redwood City's council chamber where they've totally reconfigured it like we do here often. And it's very, and in Hillsborough, they had,
Well,
we
you
were there the other
dinner,
day and they
for
had,
dinner night, yeah.
there was a dinner, and then the next day when we went,
They're
there
doing
were,
mahjong playing.
yeah, there was a whole bunch of people playing games in there, and I think that's a great use of the space. I mean,
it wasn't a
So was it
fixed or temporary.
I can't get to the bottom line, what was it?
the dais in both of those facilities was fixed. but the chairs that the public sat in were, and I think maybe, I'm not sure about staff, but the chairs were all flexible.
The
Well, the
two
chairs here
staff
are always
wings
planned
might
to be
wanna be,
flexible.
Always
Here.
plan to be
You know,
flexible.
so
Like,
that's,
We're just
those
talking
might
about
wanna
the
be,
diets.
rotatable.
so you guys have to
The
decide.
two staff things that,
Right.
like, you might want them to be able to fold back linear.
Right, but that's a design thing. I would prefer from a oversight and management perspective that we don't have staff in here every time. Every time there's a meeting in here, even this meeting, it pulls MCE, two guys from half an hour to an hour, set up the chairs and the tables and then back out. And so then there's a rotating meeting afterwards where they gotta set it up for a council meeting and they have to come back and take it all
So
down.
when you do a meeting like this? That's a good question. Where do you do your committee meetings? Planning commission,
Well,
probably
most
the
of them are
dais,
dais, but if there's a study
traffic,
session, we'd set them up just like we do here.
train, subcommittee, this
Well,
committee.
here,
Yeah, we're all here.
But you'll do the same thing?
Right.
yeah.
You'll do, tables again?
Right, but we would plan better with audio in the center of the floor, and for the dais, council dais, your idea of rotating the staff tables back gives it more flexibility there.
Yeah.
But
Well,
we can
then-
still build the technology into it,
Yeah,
if
cause
it's
then
part of
if
it.
you do that, you can always have that be some kind of, if it's
Buffet
sloped,
table.
then you can,
Yes,
You could always
you can
have
have a
it,
topper on it, so it can be a
So,
buffet type
yeah, the reason we
situation.
like having it
Yeah.
down here as a working committee group is because it's less formal.
Right,
And when it's a raised dais, you feel formal. And so,
Yeah.
you know, as long as we can maintain that more informal,
mhm.
and if those staff
Opportunity.
things were flexible, they might be have connections that are fixed, but if they can rotate, you could even make a big table out of that.
well,
Mhm.
is
They could
this
rotate
exactly
all the
how
way
it's gonna
around
be designed? I think
into
these
a
are like
rectangle.
placeholders. I
The
don't think this is
placeholders right now,
designed.
they aren't designed all the way as
Yeah.
yet, they'll come back to you with.
Yeah.
But wouldn't it be nice if those would rotate all the way around to face the dais, and you'd
Maybe.
have,
A head table?
Yeah.
I don't know if you, well, I don't know,
It-
if
it-
it
because it
worked for
wouldn't be
committee
raised.
meetings or not, but it would be
Yeah.
kind of interesting.
But if it were semi-permanent, we could build new technology into it,
Yeah.
with screens and
Yeah,
Mhm.
microphones and other things,
but you
which
guys,
would be a lot more helpful.
Well, we don't
I
need,
think
we don't have to program this from.
pardon?
Let me
As
know.
time goes
Yeah,
on,
definitely.
No.
staff is only gonna be more expensive,
Yeah.
I think we want
and
it on grade
to the
level.
extent we design well, we're gonna minimize our
I
costs,
know,
so
I
Okay.
we should try to
I mean,
minimize
we-
the
I
I'm
savings.
change
kind
our-
of through
but
my
it- but
presentation
this
with the
is
exception of,
Yeah.
I didn't have
too,
this on the,
you know,
Should we do that one?
official.
So before we leave, before we go to schedule, before we go to elevations, were there any comments on the public areas of the plans to change? So we talked about the mail thing, we talked about the bathrooms, we talked about, any other common area things we talked about?
Well, I think we didn't really, I mean,
I think I already got mine.
Mary Grace talked about the stairway, and they're gonna try and come
Yeah,
back.
try to
with
make it
some
even a little more.
But I think the problem that we have is that we've given them almost an impossible task, in that there's just not enough space to be able to do anything. There's not enough width in that stairway to be able to do anything that's an impressive stairway.
Well, just articulate, they're
You know what,
articulating.
actually,
How
I
impressive is
I wouldn't
stairway
say that, because in speaking with the
Go in.
architect, they really feel they'll be able to have an impressive stairway. I would give them the opportunity to come back to you with those ideas, which will probably be the next
I just don't want it
CIC.
to cost a
But
ton
they,
of money.
they really feel they can get a nice stairway, it's got some drama to it, it's gonna be a statement stairway.
I don't like the word statement and drama, I think functional and
Well,
visible.
Okay.
Visible
It'll
stairway.
be nice, and
Yeah.
it won't look like it's crammed in a corner.
Functional and
Put it
open,
that way.
right?
One that encourages public
Right.
use of the
Yes.
second floor
Yes,
space.
and
Functional and open.
attractive, but
We
you
don't
just
want it
have
like
to
Mountain
state
View.
it.
Make it a
I don't
piano.
know what-
You don't want it to
You've
look
never
like
been to
a,
Mountain
oh,
View?
no, 1,000, 10,000.
Well, my two
It'd be
cents is,
nice to
I
have
think
it
the
in the
lobby's
middle,
still a little
the
bit
elevator in the
spacious
middle.
feeling.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, you walk in and it's 1,800 square feet. I mean, I looked at some real estate ads this weekend and they have houses that are 2,300 square foot, and that's 3 bedrooms, 2 baths.
Oh, you bought the lobby?
Yeah.
That'll be a
right, cool.
great public space.
I know,
if
but,
we want
you
one.
know, it's gonna be empty a lot. That's it.
It's
You
our
know,
city
this is-
hall.
we're in the business of, this is a business building, it's gonna be empty, it's not a commercial building, Steve.
Well, we
You
did
know.
have, Rose, we had I don't know that you were able to make it, for the arts committee,
Uh-huh,
a reception we have a rotating artist through town hall
okay.
now that has art on the wall, so we had a reception,
Mhm.
and they were actually
They
using the front
hosted.
of the building, the front of the lobby, went behind the counter into the conference room and into the staff area and back,
Mhm.
and a lobby like this
Oh, yeah.
would be huge for an
It-
event
it-
like
I think
that.
it opens your opportunities for additional public events.
But we have this
interaction.
building, and we've had parts of the library, I mean, there's just so many redundancies that I'm kind of
I
seeing.
would, and maybe
It's a
Tom, I can
Pardon
maybe
me?
point to you a little bit on this.
How often
You
will
would
this
use library
building be
workshop?
used for library programming?
Yeah.
a couple times a day.
This building will
So,
use.
Yeah.
I think libraries is gonna use this building for programming a couple times a day.
Yeah.
Library's using this program, okay.
Yeah, I think
That's-
there's
Okay.
things that, because the spaces, and Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, but because currently the spaces don't exist, the
Mhm.
programs aren't there yet.
Mhm.
But in what I understand from the couple of meetings I've had with the library staff and what have you, I mean, the needs for programming in the community are huge.
Mhm.
And so you're going to see the space occupied frequently because the need is there. Is that?
Or I think the interest will be there when we have a fabulous
This
library.
space.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Okay, so we're off the plans. Everybody ready to move off the plans, onto elevations?
Well, we're not talking,
Right.
you know, we're off, but I mean, we're still going through iterations, right?
It's gonna come back.
So we're
Yeah.
making, we're getting pretty honed down on square footage. Like I mentioned, I really think the one thing that's hanging out there right now is just the sizing of the electrical mechanical.
Right,
They're-
that's
They're
gonna
just
be big.
looking at the,
Yeah.
they're just looking at how connections of things work, because some things are just how things are gonna line up to be able to build the building. So we're going to get to a point, and we're getting to it,
Mhm.
where there'll be certain spaces in the building where you may say, oh, could that be more efficient? Could we get that square footage out there? And the answer's gonna be, well, no, because we can't push the other spaces to accommodate that anymore. It's just the configuration of the spaces. So we're
Yeah.
getting very close.
Yeah.
What we have done in this round is we have knocked the whole square footage of the building down 3,200 square feet. So if you go, where were we?
And
We
what was
were-
the target?
we didn't have a
It
target for
was-
knocking the square footage down. We were aiming to get down
Efficiency.
efficiency and as close to the 18,000
18,600
something
yeah.
number as we could.
Existing.
Paul,
Existing.
if I remember right, the overall cost of the building, like the cost per square foot, somewhere around between 800 and 900 a square foot.
That sounds about right.
Combined.
So you go 3,200 times 800, that's 2.4 million plus. Just in the, and I'm gonna qualify that because, you know, we're still dealing with moving costs. We had a phasing meeting the other day. How are we gonna keep the city
Yeah.
functioning during this time? We've still gotta,
That little
but
detail.
you know, do I feel comfortable saying that I think we've pruned about 2 million off this project? Yeah, I think so. Between looking at, and that's not even talking all the way about landscape, you know, and that's where to someone's point about, well, let's make sure we don't prune the landscape so down that we have this stark area around. I don't think you're gonna be there. I think you're gonna be able to say, okay, we have these plantings, adding the trees and what have you, and it might be that you have some enhanced outdoor furniture or enhanced walkways or things that those you say are your adults, but you're gonna be able to have a beautiful landscape. You're gonna be able to say we're meeting our budget goal and we're getting there. So September is when we're aiming to bring to council a closer analysis of the budget. I'll be bringing to council this one, that thumbnail of saying, okay, here's about where we think we can get to, and it's looking good. But I am comfortable saying that we have been able to significantly reduce the budget.
And we will still continue to, I guess, because based on the meeting with the PD, they're saying that Erica is revisiting the lab, right? And this layout doesn't reflect the revisiting things like that. And then, you know, your documentation will come out and explain some of these things, like why we have 2 armories, storage and things like that. Is that correct?
Some of that's like a mislabel, to be
Oh,
honest. Yeah.
okay.
So,
I didn't know
but
that.
they're tuning things up. This is a snapshot.
Okay, that's what I
So
wanted to
there's still
confirm.
some tuning, but
Mhm.
are we gonna see significant square footage reductions from here on out? I would not say we are.
Not
It
even
would be really
mechanical,
tough.
electrical, the redundancies.
You'll
Yeah,
have,
I'm worried that
they'll
squeeze
get
it too
that
much.
honed in, but is it gonna be significant, like 1,000 square feet? I don't
Mhm.
think so.
Okay.
I think I think we're getting pretty darn close to where we're gonna end up.
I actually think they have 2 rooms for the armory, one for tactical equipment, one for patrol.
Is that what it was? Yeah, I didn't know what.
And
that-
I'll be having all that in the fact sheet
Okay,
for you.
that's-
Because
that would
I
be
think
great.
that's gonna be really helpful to all of you and to the public as well to understand
Mhm.
what the heck it is PD does.
What the heck do they do?
Okay, elevations.
So this is our first blink at the updated elevation. The goal of this is that we're still holding the look and the feel of what was approved in the schematic design. Is it gonna be exact number of windows? No. But this is where I'd like some comment, guidance as to, okay, are we hitting the mark, that look and feel? This is also not a rendering. It is a computer generated this is your onion skin game. We don't use onion skin a whole lot anymore.
Sketchup or something.
Now we
like
put
that.
it in a computer. Sometimes people panic thinking, it's done. It's not
Now,
done.
Rakesh, you raised the issue, first, thank you for working so hard through this space planning. That really has come a long way, particularly given that the lobby doors now line up front and back, all 3 of them, which is really a big change. It makes that lobby much nicer. And make the building make more sense when you're walking through it. It will just feel right. On this one, you would called out you're a little bit worried about that front elevation on the left, and I think that my instinct is it wants to be a little more residential, even though it is an office building. It just wants to feel a little more like an Atherton house. Maybe some of the windows would be
Yeah, I
curved
think
or something.
we need to task the architect with looking at those windows and giving us something closer to what was in the schematic design as far as that elevation. That would be what I'm seeing in it. But it's your castle.
I also think on the chief's office, it doesn't need to be 3 feet deep up there in those
Yeah.
windows.
Yeah, it doesn't, I don't think
Yeah.
it's worth it.
Would it
either.
make sense to push it back as a,
The whole, the whole facade?
One or the other would be better than what they showed.
I think
Right.
having a
Either
little
push it back.
pushing it
Back.
back would
Ask them for some reveal.
give it
Yeah.
some
There's
reveal.
some-
Yeah, because otherwise his office gets bigger and we don't want that.
But
It's one or the other, yeah.
what is below the chief's windows? Is that a doorway? There
That's a
isn't
fake,
doorway.
nothing.
It's a fake.
It's a
It's
detail.
Kind of an
It's
alcove.
into the
That's
plaster.
where we put the Virgin there.
Once upon a time, it was gonna be a fountain, and I think it's not a
Yes,
fountain anymore.
right, that's correct.
It's just one of
I
those
just
Santa
came
Barbara
from
details that would stick
My
on a
relatives
building.
in Kentucky.
But what's behind it is dispatch, and they didn't want a window, if I remember.
Right.
So is there another elevation? So
No.
the thing that stood out to me when I saw it change is all the square footage reductions we've done in the PD caused a separation between the roof of the council chambers and the PD roof.
Oh, so they lowered it.
Well, they're
There's a
not,
space
No,
in
there's
There's a
just an
space.
opening.
There's a little more definition.
So if you look at the second story floor plan,
Are they showing a roof on the top of the
There's
PD?
literally open air.
I thought it was a flat roof up there.
It is,
He's talking
it's
about the
not,
space here.
it's flat
Yeah.
right behind.
I like it.
So you got some separation there.
I
that makes
like it
look
because
like
it makes it
I like
its
it
own
too.
building.
But they got rid of the flat, it used to
I
have
It's
love
still
it.
a flat roof.
No, I do too. No, it's not. That's not, that's,
It will be, I think they're holding the.
oh, is it a fake, is it a one
Yes,
side?
it's a,
Yes,
And then it's
fake
flat underneath
facade.
there?
yeah,
yeah,
I like it.
Yeah.
but,
But I'm looking,
it's right
Yeah, it looks good.
in between here.
the
and
window
here,
for the
there's-
dispatcher is really tiny down.
window.
No, they don't have one. That's like, I think that, well, let's
This
just,
one right here?
Yeah,
I think that's,
that goes into dispatch,
I
doesn't it?
didn't see that drawing, so
I think that
You mean
goes-
on the first floor?
you know, you might be, you might be right.
Or is that at the counter to dispatch and not really opening to dispatch? Is that The public area in front of
Oh.
dispatch?
I think once, yeah,
Let's go back.
no, they're in the,
So
they're,
it's stuff.
Oh, no, they're up further over to the right.
He's got
Okay.
the updated one.
Do you mind- Mary Grace, do you mind going back to the police first floor plan? It shows where, how those windows relate to the interior plan. That's what everybody's asking about. Yeah,
Police, second story,
first floor. Those
That is
windows on the front of the
This
building.
window right
so
here.
you've got a window into dispatch here,
Uh-huh.
and then there
So that is
are
dispatch.
no windows.
Yeah, it's a tiny window.
And what's the other window going into?
It's too small.
Because there shows,
It's a big,
Could you put two windows
that's the
there?
bathroom, could they do two here?
well, they show two on the elevation. Is one
No,
into
they-
the
they-
reception
we made
area?
it-
Not have all
No,
of
this is
the.
the.
No, they only show one.
Yeah, that's what I meant. They show two windows. Is one in reception maybe?
You know, it might be
Two
because
windows
I,
here.
Well, there's
I
three,
had them
just
do
one.
an update
But, you know,
on that elevation
There's no
before,
windows here, there's only one here.
and the floor plan wasn't.
Yeah, she's saying they didn't update it yet. It's probably in reception.
Then there's this little thing.
So the two bigger ones are in reception.
Reception
No,
and dispatch.
that's
Right there.
And there's nothing in the back corner, which I can't read.
That's the records. store.
Records,
Did-
you don't want one back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Records,
Okay.
bathroom,
Dispatch records.
dispatch.
Dispatch,
Yeah.
So we
which
have a
doesn't need.
window into dispatch, window into reception.
I don't think the police office, they want to make.
It's just, you can go back to the elevation, which is a question of that, the detail at the end of the building, is it still, anyway, that's architecture. I mean, we can tell them if we like it or not, but.
So
I don't know what that
reception,
window is though.
dispatch,
And what's that
Oh, that
next
little
one?
one in
What's
the
that?
bathroom.
bathroom,
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's a.
Ah,
and then this is record storage
That's
back
right.
here. So it's just, they're just looking at architectural
Big.
detail. Now, I believe in the
Is that a
original,
restroom?
in
Yeah,
the
that's it.
schematic
That's it.
design,
that's the bathroom.
and that's what's
where that
not
small
shown on
window
in here either, is, and because we just don't have all those but there was also a finish, there was a kind of a rock finish on the lower part of this
You can see it over,
as well.
if, if it's there, you can see it in it,
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah, right in here.
It was a low wall.
So you can see there was like a little little wall, and then they had some landscape screening and what have you. So this had, you know, it was a big wall before, but we're not seeing the whole concept of it here. So here were the three arches, and it kind of had this window that had a grid over it, a mission-looking grid. It had this little kind of fake, kind of wooden, like door going into a mission. It had a low rock kind of decorative element off the front, and it had a landscape screening coming around the corner.
I think Rick's comment's really well taken, that dispatch, those people working in that open cubicle area need another
Need some
window,
light.
need another window.
Is that an
Well, whatever,
operation
whether it
issue?
needs another window or, they just need light.
If you just
There
look-
is a window. Is that the one that's in the middle of that wall?
Do you see
right
it?
here.
Yeah, no, it's, yeah, it's very small.
Right.
And-
That one
So
right
you
there.
need another one to go, like, right here, like where they come in. I told you
Yeah,
to.
security standpoint, that can happen.
Oh, you mean not, in addition to that?
Yeah.
And not have to worry about.
Or a wider
a
window.
Side window if there's one there.
They could make it double wide.
I think two would be nice.
Just another place to
Or
put
a
it.
entry. Yeah,
I
that could,
actually think that the image on the elevation and the image in the
Plan,
plan is
it
not
doesn't work.
in sync. They're, like, I'm looking at where the windows show for,
And
To the line
please,
up.
second
please
floor,
understand, they were
they're just not in
they were
sync.
generating this at the
Yeah,
last minute,
so-
so there's the plan view will
So
will
that
get tweaked a
we
little
just
bit.
have to give them time to
but how do
coordinate.
people feel about the look? Is they,
That's the bigger question.
this particular elevation, is the left side, the right side didn't, just went from 5 windows to 4, but it looks identical. The left side grew office windows that it didn't used to have. And so are people okay on the second floor? And on the first floor, it grew office-y windows. And is that okay? Do we want it to look a little more residential? Like, how do we feel?
I don't know that it grew office windows. I mean,
That
those,
didn't, they didn't used to have those.
yeah, they did.
Not like that.
And then they did.
They had
have-
3 arched windows at the end, and that was it. They had office windows here,
Here.
nothing here, and then
Right.
1, 2, 3
Through
here.
these windows in.
These are all new, and
They
these are
will-
new.
you had a bigger space. in
Maybe there was one of these
that were
before.
office windows, so this squished.
That's what
these-
Fair Oaks.
Basically
Yeah.
squished the
You
desks.
mean,
Yeah,
you mean
like
the
that.
windows like
Yeah, count them.
in
There was
dispatch?
1, 2,
Those
3, there was
windows?
like 6.
They
And
were
now
all
there's
in the
one window
reveal.
more.
They were all in the reveal. This is new. It just feels a little less residential. It looks a little more like
Well, you're,
a Stanford campus building,
It's
like the,
because
in
it
the,
has-
in the engineering quad.
is so starkly drawn.
Does everyone like the back?
I think the back is more successful than the front.
Yeah, I think the
Yeah.
back's pretty good.
Yeah, I think the back is great. To me, the one problem I just have is from the three on the front side, from the entranceway, everything to the left of it, it just doesn't feel right. And you know, it's.
Yeah.
And does it want to be a little more residential, a little softer?
It does. It just needs to be
A
something
little
different.
softer, that's a good way of
And I,
putting it.
and I think the fake door just doesn't. You know, I
No.
understand the intent. It's
I
just
don't
I'm
like
looking- I keep
that.
looking at that.
I don't like that they
They're gonna put a statue in.
They do that, but usually it has something
Think
in
it's
it.
filled.
Yeah, it's very typical.
It's a little more
So I
decorative.
think we give them
on
the
end.
direction that, you know what, this is looking good, I
Or
like the
that.
triple arch, this area to the left, we need to take, we need that to be less officey.
Yeah,
And does it make sense to push at the chief's office rather than have this dead space in there, just push it back?
either give it to the chief in his
Push it
office
back
or
or
push it back.
expand the office.
One or the other, yeah.
Did the angle get sharper? Is that what it is? Cause it really looks longer to the left on Fair Oaks facade.
It
And it
looks
did
longer
before.
because you don't have all of the landscape screening shown
Is that
on
what it
here.
is?
Yeah, cause look, this is.
What she said is the middle section used to be wider, so
Yeah.
where the
Lobby.
entry is, it was repressed wider. And that got smaller, and then the wing appears bigger.
You had 8 windows in there, and we have 3 now.
Gotcha.
So the other thing, even though we've got the 3 arches, I feel the right arch, maybe it's because it's in the shadow, seems jammed up against the side wall of the avenue.
Well, and this is part of what they were concerned about. They said because that lobby has gotten a lot smaller,
Mhm.
that putting the 3 arches, it's more crowded in there. So,
So do you want
that's just.
2 arches and 2 sets of
Or
doors?
one big arch.
I don't think
They,
we want one big arch.
they did do the 1 arch with the 2 openings, and I think George has it,
Didn't look that good.
it looks pretty bad.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I agree with Elizabeth's comment.
It has to get pretty, you lose the corners, because it's such a wide arch.
There's the one arch.
It looks very
It
industrial.
doesn't look right. I don't know how it would look with just 2, but.
Mhm.
It looks squished.
It needs to be taller. is the problem.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Squished.
Right.
No,
No,
three,
it's
I
squished.
think it's the way to go.
Yeah, and they did 2 big ones too.
Here it is on the Fair Oaks side.
Or something.
It just needs a foot or 2 on
It
the,
does
that
on
one
that
arch.
right side.
Just so it's as, just so it's as wide as the other leg.
Maybe 2 would
Yeah,
work.
we're widening the building.
How wide is
This
the,
was much
yeah,
better.
no, I know.
Yeah.
How wide is the one leg? The final leg, is it
I don't know.
6 inches deep or
What-
24 inches?
what leg?
I
What
would
are you
guess
talking
Oh,
about?
no, it's right here. You guys, it's the, look at the difference between the, if you look at the second, the
The back?
elevation, not the perspective, the up above, up, 2 up.
Yeah, right, it's
That, no,
the
one,
shaded one, it's
the
the
second
gray,
one from the top, yeah.
without the top.
It looks fine.
Yeah, the north elevation.
There's a
It-
good
it's got-
24
it's
inches
got
there.
It's got some width to it.
It looks fine.
Yeah, here, see, look, right here.
It looks
I-
good.
I-
That's what I
That's what
meant.
I said, it could be just the
It's the
shadow
shadowing.
that I'm not seeing, but, yeah,
It looks good.
Okay, let's move on.
yeah, I gotta go.
Okay. All right, schedule,
So,
6:17.
schedule is no different, it stayed the same. If you would like, I can show you this, a snapshot, we just got it today, of the updated library.
Well, that's dangerous, but okay.
Yeah, we haven't
You
focused
gotta
on the
show it
back,
to
but-
us.
So,
Not if you want to get out of here at 6:30.
Sorry, man.
Not if you want out of here in
Hold
13
on.
minutes.
Get out of your own schedule, that's all.
Maybe you should email it to us.
The,
'Cause I can't see a
I'd like
thing.
I'd like to give library an opportunity to comment and let us get to our staff iteration if that's okay, but I just
Yeah.
wanted to let you know it's moving along.
Right.
None of the furniture has been,
It's right to
Laid out
rectilinear.
yet.
I mean, that thing
It's-
is just all right angles.
it's,
It's not.
huh?
I'm joking.
Zoom
Sorry, I'm
in
just
a little bit.
being joking. You can do full width.
Yeah, it looks like there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
really
Wow.
The epiphany really needs to be worked out for
Yes.
here.
Cornucopia.
With libraries,
Star
it's
Trek.
so much open spaces and working through, where stacks are gonna go of furniture is a big thing.
One huge change though, Mary Grace,
Uh-huh.
from the old iteration to this one, is, top right-hand side of the screen, heritage room.
That's heritage.
Oh, it's back there now?
Yep.
Oh.
And the
No,
restrooms are moved
Two
off
different
the
things.
lower right,
Heritage exhibit,
which
not
was a
her-
bad place
heritage
for 'em.
room.
They're now in the middle.
Yeah.
And there
Good,
won't
because
be
the
unisex.
exhibit, the history has to be up
Well,
front.
and
Well,
this
those
is
top-
something
what are
that
those?
we
The rest
are
of
gonna be
Absolutely.
coming to you, asking
what about
direction
Mary Grace
on
said there?
about,
Right here.
do we kind of try and design some
Okay.
Small,
heritage
same.
elements through
They're
the
unisex?
building
Yes.
that can be changed out, that can,
Well, we could do that, but they needed workroom, that
Ca-
was the
ca-
big deal.
that's the work.
Do we have children's bathrooms?
Yes, there's
Yes.
a family restroom over
One
there.
The
restroom.
restroom is over here.
Family, okay. It's not like a kid's little boy, little girl.
It's a family restroom.
Okay. Is it near the kids' area?
Yes.
Yeah, right next to
Right
it.
next to it.
Okay, great.
And
So
the
what-
other two restrooms are where now?
So these
Oh, no.
restrooms are designed to be,
That's gonna be controversial.
gender neutral.
Wait, that whole thing in the middle is a
Yeah, actually,
restroom?
I'd like to get a read on what you guys think of that, because it's just a suggestion, it's not.
No, it's a real issue.
I think
It's,
gender neutral.
Menlo School, my kids are at Menlo, and
I
it's,
do.
it's a real deal, like,
Yeah.
because it's not only
Wow.
this, that, and the other thing, there's like,
Zoom in
there's
just a
too
little
many to
bit.
count.
I've
wouldn't
been to a couple
question
of
it.
restaurants that are like that now.
In the middle?
That's,
Yeah,
it's, a lot of
stalls.
restaurants are doing
Oh,
that.
you mean unisex?
Yeah.
Huh.
But it's,
I know, that's what I said.
Oh, an interesting reading on Wednesday.
So these are gender neutral. What it is everybody gets their own stall with a door, and then you have a shared sink area.
Wait, you've got 1, 2, 3, you got 6 toilets in there?
That's
yeah,
men's
and a
women's.
handicap.
That's unnecessary.
Men's and women's.
Dude, it's
Men's
women
and
too.
So then,
Two
So-
each.
do the
That's
cubicle
unnecessary.
stalls then go
it's,
from?
it's not crazy, Rick, because if you had a men's and women's, you'd have 2 in the men's and
Mhm.
3 or 4 in the women's. That's
Yep.
pretty typical. That's not crazy.
We might
can't
be.
go
Particularly have an event.
Wait,
There's no
No,
urinals.
because there are
No,
still
that's
restrooms
everything.
in the town hall, right, there's still.
Across.
Get away
In
with
this
sports.
building, there's 2 restrooms.
this
Right.
library
We've got
should
these
get away
two, and
with
then you've got
2
got
single-sex
They-
restrooms and a
It's-
children's.
I think
Not
there's
if
a
you're,
code.
not if you're
I
having an
think there's a
event.
code.
Yeah,
They,
yeah.
I'll
They're-
question
they're
them on it,
sizing
but
it.
they
Yeah.
have been sizing things for code,
For
for
code.
occupancy.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
So they've been pretty
No.
good about that, but I haven't had a chance to talk to them about this number and this layout ash yet.
Yeah,
So one thing for sure is the one all the way to the right, it's an 88, right?
Yes.
yeah.
So then you really only have 5 men and women. The 88 serves both.
Would this
Why
be
is
used by
that
chil-
one, sorry, go ahead.
Would this be used by children?
Could be.
They could, but
Teenagers.
that's, young children, it'd all scare the crap out of some parents,
Yeah.
that if my kid's going into a gender neutral
It
bathroom.
scares the crap out of me when I go to like, it's
Yeah,
just weird,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
You just kinda get
That's
used to
why
it.
you need a kid's bathroom. The family room may be enough, but you kinda want the little short toilets with the
You
little
need a
booths.
kid's
and-
bathroom because they can't usually make it.
Yeah, that's another reason, yeah,
But,
okay.
anyways, this is where we are at this iteration.
How come the one
Notice
turns
these will
different?
also be the staff restrooms. Staff doesn't have a separate restroom. That was using the public restrooms.
How come the one swings the other way?
It's handicap accessible.
There's
No,
something
no, not
about
that
that,
one.
they
The
have
other
a
one.
different designation on there,
Is
which
that
I
the
don't know what it
application
means.
too,
I
right
need
in
to
the
ask
middle?
them.
Oh, you know what it might be? It might be there's not enough space
Oh,
on the
the
side of the, it might be
They have
narrower.
a different designation, I'm not sure what it means.
It might be smaller.
It's smaller.
A and B.
smaller.
It's
a smaller
not
stall.
narrow
That's
enough
what
on
was
the
left
pole.
over. It was
Yeah.
left over.
And all of these cubicle, they're built like with regular walls as opposed to
Yeah, they're not stalls.
they're not stalls.
Right, these are.
It's a room.
It's a room.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's just weird when you come out of the bathroom and just there's a sink in front of you. I'm sure it's gonna be commonplace here.
A lot of restaurants have done it.
Yeah.
Buckle up before you walk out the door.
Yeah, yeah.
Tom, how do you feel about the location there? Is that,
Well, they've moved around the building a couple times now. the location's okay. I just don't see this arrangement working for a public library yet.
Right.
I
It's
would
funny
be-
because we are working with architects for the new Brisbane library, and this afternoon we had in that meeting, the same issue came up. And I don't think it'll fly with the community.
I don't either.
Yeah,
So-
Well, it
I
might
think
have
we
to,
agree with
because the question will
Yeah.
be in the next 24 months, what happens with lawsuits?
You might be
We're gonna get some-
retrofitting another.
You might have to.
It's not.
Mary Grace, I think what you're gonna wanna do to be flexible is be able to cut that thing in half and put a door on the other side and make it a his and hers. I would just maintain that flexibility till the last day, till they're out there. Put-
They've gotta have a
stamp it in
handicap on
studs.
each side though, they've gotta have, if that's gonna.
Yeah, you're gonna have two
A
stalls in
handicap-
each one. You're gonna have a
handicaps, yeah.
handicap and you're gonna have one other stall and maybe a urinal.
So what I've seen in other public
Yeah.
venues that have gone this route
Yeah,
has been the entry into the restroom is wide open, there's no door. And the sink
Right.
is in the middle.
Mhm.
So if you're on the outside and you have a small child looking in, you can see the kids walking outside of the.
yeah, it's not in a closed room.
Just the hand sink area, but then the stalls are just basically closets, and you walk in.
So you have a series of 6 doors or 6
Six
doors.
doors, yeah.
That, I think, would work. I like that idea.
Rather than in a closed room where somebody's hanging out at the same.
Absolutely, yeah, that you walk into. I
Okay,
think-
all right, let's
It
move.
makes the bathroom sound library.
Yeah, well, yeah, see, I'm not sold on that middle location. I mean, maybe I'm just old fashioned or something. I always remember library bathroom locations being more toward the front of the building, away from the library activity.
Can I remind us that-
On a counter note
Sure,
of what I
that's
went
that's
through
why I
on that
brought it
one,
up.
when I was going through my last library design, I got huge bite back from the older community about not having the bathrooms close enough to the
Where the activity is,
adult
okay.
area.
That makes
And
sense.
that, oh, you put it all the way up here, and you're forcing us to go all the way back and
Okay.
forth.
Well, I'm looking forward to our library subcommittee
Oh.
having time to discuss this with Tom and the other appropriate groups. Good. All right, do we have the schedule left or is there anything
The
else?
schedule is not changed, I
Okay.
just threw it at the end just to.
Okay, so
And
are
then
there any ad hoc?
other comments, directions, anything to me?
I think you got it. Okay, any library ad hoc, no reports? Rose, I guess there's no report from that group, right?
We're meeting on Wednesday, right?
Wednesday, okay. Outreach,
I don't have anything going on, but I wouldn't mind getting a little direction at some point because the term outreach was brought up 2 or 3 times here tonight as far as letting people know what's going on.
I
and-
would talk with you, maybe you should
Yeah,
be
we should be involved.
connecting with Mary
Yeah.
Grace about this,
And I just-
outreach on the landscape.
Right,
So
and
that we're.
we didn't have anything at the
I
meeting last
know
meeting,
it was
and
sent previously.
I feel like I'm kind of behind the 8 ball here as
Well,
far
what,
as.
I hadn't heard about this until just now.
So why don't you
I
say
just-
Mary Grace?
I had no
Yes.
idea.
So we're asking
So
that on the
Well, I
outreach
feel
to the
we
public
need to do
that
something here.
we use the committee. So if you'll coordinate with them on this, we're
I'll
not
fire
calling a
off an
survey.
email. I'll get it started with an email.
Request for feedback on the landscape.
And where we need to go
Concepts.
with outreach.
Absolutely.
Okay,
I hadn't
Thank
seen
you.
this.
okay.
This was not.
Okay,
part of
next
the-
one is budget. The budget is you're doing a great job bringing down the square footage.
Yes.
Project management, there's nothing new.
It's an old iteration.
It's an older.
It's,
Oh, yeah,
yeah, on the updated iteration.
All right, folks, we're almost there. Green building.
We're still waiting for the matrix.
I'm still waiting for the matrix.
You said that at the
I've already
beginning.
sent them
Okay.
in,
And there's nothing new on SFPUC, I'm assuming.
yeah.
Or does it not
SFPUC,
matter
I
anymore?
have made contact. And we are lighting a little bomb under them. I did meet with our engineering consultant on Friday to understand what he had been able to get, and I have spoken with the SFPUC representative, Dina Brazil, and she said, yes, they are committed to working with us to get an agreement to be able to relocate, but we need to, she's working on a roadmap to make that happen. So
Okay.
we should have something shortly of a schedule, a roadmap, and the goal that I've put to her is that by the September council meeting, we basically have something of bullet points of what this agreement would look like so that council can
can give us direction, with respect to those bullet points. We won't have an agreement drafted, but we should have the roadmap and the concept of how this would work and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, thank you. Any new business? Any other motion to adjourn?
One quick question,
Yes.
next meeting is August first? I mean,
It
September
should be
1st?
on here. Oh, it's not on here.
August.
I mean, August first?
It is the beginning of August.
I was right the first time, August first?
It'd be lovely if that can get
Yeah.
back on the agenda next
Because I
time.
won't be
Okay.
here on August first.
I can
Or
tell
is
you
it
what I
September
can.
1st?
And the consultant will be
Either
here for
one.
that meeting, so,
Sorry?
the consultant will be here for that meeting.
The August first.
It is August 1st, 4:30. You're not gonna be here.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe here.
You're here?
No, I'm out of town.
You're gone. Well, we have a quorum. Then we should do are you here? Clive, you here?
I'll be here.
I'm here, so we just need
Just
one
checking.
more. Dee Dee
August
won't be
1st.
here, I'm betting, unless she
Christine
calls
may
in.
be here, I guess.
She's not here today.
No.
And one last note is Mark, the video guy, is working on I don't know if any of you have seen it, but he's working on a new version of the African Now video.
Oh, that's.
He's done a nice job of doing reveals in the parking lot, a shot with the stand-up, and then he wipes to the different elevations we have over that area that you're looking at that's blank. It's actually a pretty cool effect that could bring those areas to life and get people to envision the project a little bit better. He's done a real nice job with it.
Wow, that's
Great.
cool. Looking forward to seeing it.
Thank you very much. Mary Grace, maybe if you could ping Christine and Dee Dee and see if either of them are gonna attend
Okay,
August 1, because if they don't, we won't have a quorum.
quorum.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
We have a
Thank
motion
you.
to adjourn.
Appreciate all your input.
Yes.